There are 465 books in this library, and I've meticulously reread 141 of them. But how much do you think I've actually remembered? From book to brain, what percentage of these pages have I actually digested? Because it's such an important question that I personally want to know the answer to, because I need to know if I've wasted my life and the last 4 years of my focus, and crucially, I don't want you making the same mistakes. I want nothing less than to save you potentially thousands of hours of unnecessary self-educational effort with this video. Once again, I've studied around 600 books in total. If this is your first time seeing me, 600 books on trauma psychology, self-actualization, and self-healing. To put it briefly, that's around 10,000 to 12,000 hours in 4 years if we take 7 to 8 hours per day of research, and over 100 of those books are banished into the garage, and the best 141 of them have been reread. So crucially, we come to this question of how much have I actually remembered? Honest answer might be quite shocking for you to hear. You may have never watched a YouTube video like this, but this is the truth. I would be lying to you if I believed I'd remembered 20% or even 10% of this total effort. I think the realistic answer from 600 books encountered is about 5%, which looks like this. This is 20 books. I can't hold up all of them. This is 20. Store this in your mind. And we add about an extra 10. I think it's about 30 books. If you look at the total volume, I can't pick them all up at once. In fact, I'm unsure if this little shelf is going to take the weight. It doesn't look like very much to be proud of. Again, 4 years of my life in this library, building out this inner work experience to try and create something valuable, to heal myself, and then to provide the best possible healing information, tools, techniques, tactics to help other people heal themselves. Only 30 books. Doesn't seem like a lot, but if you look at the total page density, you will understand why I've chosen this strategy for self-education. I often get questions like this one and this one, where it's reading strategies, how do I read every day, what's my approach towards education, and generally speaking, like, how do you do it, and please give me the secrets and the shortcuts. And the reality is, I have got no secret, no shortcut, no speed reading technique that's going to save you thousands of hours, or even any kind of crazy memorization technique to remember 95% of what you've read. My strategy is immersion. Total immersion. Everyday exposure. Swimming in the ocean of self-education. And I also humbly recognize that I will not remember the majority of what I've read. Not only out of these 600 books do we have 141 at the time of recording, which were worthy of rereading. These are the books that are going to feature in my YouTube videos. They're the most important books for my private client work, and they're the most important books for me personally. There's about an equal number which have been banished to the garage. There's about 100 to 120 books I frequently, well, over the course of the last 4 years, every 3 months or so, I go into the library and go, okay, they're rubbish. This one, yeah, probably trash. I mean, not that one in particular, but theatrically speaking, I do that every 3 months. I cycle out books which are near worthless, and we've got a top percentage of about 140, we've got a lower percentage of about 100, 120, and this middle ground in between. Not only was that 110, that 120 potentially a wasted effort, which if it takes roughly a page per minute, it's 250 pages to 300 pages per book. That's a lot of hours. I've also made an extra effort to reread cover to cover the best books. So why have I only got 5% memory as my honest claim for all of this effort? All of these years? I think it's understanding what the principle of immersion actually means and what it means to educate yourself from books to body. It's a really exciting principle, which I get to see with clients in one-to-one spaces. It's not about the particular book. It's not about the particular idea. It's not even about your relationship with any particular author, theory, or psychological metric of whatever you may be fascinated by. It's about the principle of taking the essence and absorbing the essence. If you want to get esoteric with me, the aim of reading for me is absorbing the essence of the author's core. It's not about the paragraphs, it's not about the chapters, it's not even about the facts and the figures and the dates and the statistics. I studied history at university. I got very good at memorizing statistics and facts and dates and different battles or political events. In the last few years of doing this work, I do almost none of that, because that does not translate to one-to-one healing space with someone who's suffering or looking towards their future. It is useless for me to cite an important statistic about mental health recovery for the majority of people who are in a moment where what they need is to be seen and held, witnessed, and given the space to feel. And then maybe a bit of guidance, a bit of structure, a bit of masculine support and some directionality. But principally, it's about safety. All of this effort, if you really want to understand, particularly the last 3 years, the first year, that was mainly about me. But as the pace has increased, it's about trying to be as safe and secure as I possibly can in one-to-one space. The principle of total immersion is that you will not want to swim in the sea of constant exposure to brilliant ideas, philosophies, and inspiring authors if you don't have a pain or a dream that's big enough to pay attention. The reason I can focus on my feet with a book, typically the way that I'll read is I'll take a book, usually actually in the morning on Mondays. At this stage in this journey, I'll read 3 to 5 books on a Monday. And that's all I do on a Monday, and I'll read little bits and pieces throughout the week. At different stages in the journey, it was reading every day for about a 4-hour stretch in the morning. I'd go in the porch, drink a bit of coffee, have a lot of water, and just read. I wouldn't eat anything, I would just focus. Total immersion, no phone, no distractions. I take 3 days offline per week. I'll pick up 3 books. Let's imagine these are the 3 books. I'll read maybe half of this, and then I'll put it down, and then I'll go outside, go for a walk, think about it a little bit more, read this book, and then I'll come back and dip into this one, and then go back to the previous book. If you choose complementary books, if you choose different authors that complement different perspectives from different angles and different topics that simultaneously encourage and disvalidate, you get to be in this feeling of being counseled. It's a key principle. If you choose the right authors to expose yourself to, it's like creating a round table of advisors. And if you absorb their essence, it's why I don't focus on questions about particular tactics. If you absorb the essence of each individual counselor, you've got a private, internal wealth of advice to be able to draw upon. And my job over the last years has been trying to find the best possible advisors for me to internalize, for them to become internalized psychological objects, so that when I'm in a session with Mr. or Mrs. Client, and they say to me with tears in their eyes, Jordan, I just don't know what to do about this. What do you think? And they're dealing with an abuse from childhood, or they're dealing with a very present situation with an abusive partner, or something that is dreadful and important, and they're looking at you, seeking an answer. I don't need to have remembered 90% of what I've read. I need to know what the core idea is and what the core gesture is of the emotional contact that I can bring forwards. To say that in a simple way, I need to know what's the right move for the appropriate context. And at this stage in the journey, I've got about 30 or 40 individual authors representing different schools: transpersonal psychology, somatic therapy, Jungian therapy, more esoteric, spiritual perspectives, that in a half-second moment, I can draw upon that information, what's true, and make an intuitive decision which direction's the most appropriate. They need to go more towards the narrative, let's say. They need to go into the narrative. They need to really talk about the story. Let's draw upon these 5 authors and their perspective. They need to actually go into the spiritual and the dissolute and the transpersonal. Let's draw down those other types of authors, those other teachers that I feel incredibly lucky to have internalized inside of me. It's a very rich experience, and none of this depends on memorization. It's a heart-based process. If you're still watching this video at this point, I will go out there and say that the way that I've done this whole library effort is through love. Genuinely through love. I was saying to a new client recently on the phone that if you really want to get deep on your studies, you need to understand that you're not doing it for you. If you're a professional helper, or you're someone who has a responsibility to look after someone who's in a vulnerable position, you are not picking the book up because of your own curiosity and what you want to do that day. You're picking it up because you know that the information in here, to sound dramatic, the information in this book could save a life. I don't care if you're tired. I don't care if you don't want to read that morning. It's a commitment. It's a commitment and a responsibility to show up and put in the reps, in the same way that the man who's building a home for his family, or the woman who's making a meal for her family, they show up no matter what they feel. It's a sense of commitment and responsibility. And if you tap into that sense of deeper service for other people, you will really be able to maintain that 3, 4, 5 hour per day reading habit if that's what you want to go for. And even putting that into the context, if you're not aiming for 3 hours per day, you can do 1 hour per day for 365 days. You can get close to 400 hours of research, which for most people is going to be at least 50 books. At least a book a week, maybe 2 books per week. You need that motivating factor. You won't read if you don't care, and you need a reason to care. And if you're not worrying about other people, if you haven't got that responsibility to externalize that caring energy, that loving central point, just apply it to yourself. Why waste the time on social media? Why spend time worrying about what so-and-so thinks, or whatever the other responsibility is that is just a distraction if you're honest with yourself, as opposed to a strong, resolute, unconditionally positive regarding, strong, self-respecting energy, which encourages you to sit down in the morning or the evening for 1 hour no matter what, and you look after yourself. You read the material and you engage with the self-educational, self-healing concepts as if your life depends on it. You are immersed in that in the same way that if you were dropped into the ocean and there was no one around and you were struggling, you were paddling against the waves, crashing under, drowning, suffocating. When you see that someone's thrown a life jacket 100 meters that way, and in this case the life jacket is a good book at the right time, you would be very, very ill to not swim towards that very important, literally life-saving bit of information. I don't know how many times I need to say this on this channel, but the reason I focus so heavily on the books is because these teachers know more than me, and they have helped me tremendously, and they also help the people who I serve in private one-to-one space. The point of these 500 episodes is to give as much as I possibly can for free. I am immersed in this library experience. I have lived this day in, day out for at least the last 4 years, and it's going to be even more for the years ahead. And I'm trying to give you as much as I can for free and show you this very wide world of incredible teachers of the last roughly 120 years that you've probably never heard about. It's turning off the phone. It's getting this little thing all the way away from you, having really strong boundaries around phone use, letting your focus come back in, having sobriety, having healthy boundaries around where you spend your time, just so that you can realize that things aren't necessarily all that great. You may not be drowning in the ocean, but you're probably in a bit of an apathetic shutdown. You're probably playing lower than your true potential. And if you were to realize just how much deeper you could get with the kind of books I'm holding up on this channel, I will just hold up this stack one more time. This is a random selection from the shelf right next to me. Here you go. Hopefully it comes up. I guarantee that at least 10 of these books might be useful for you. You might not be able to see all of them, but the reason that they're in the library is because they were worth keeping in the library. If they weren't valuable, they would have been thrown into the garage. So please take the invitation. The reason that I need to read more than you is that I recognize my humble lack of ability to memorize information. I need to keep repeating so that I can get quotes and statistics and different ideas and concepts, which is particularly important for me as someone who's professionally holding space or intervening in a therapeutic manner. But for you, as an individual, I just want this principle to land, that if you have a reason to care, i.e., you matter and do this for you, then you will hopefully get the unlock. Please get the unlock. That it's worth an hour or two per day for a year or two to just change your life with very accessible, very cheap books. If you take 100 books I recommended on this channel, average price, let's say $10 to $15, let's go for the upper limit, secondhand, for $1,500 and 1 year of intense effort, 2 hours per day, let's say, you could set yourself up for decades of mental health, spiritual health, and physical vitality. It's 1 year well spent, and my effort with the course I'm creating currently, which should be released in the spring of 2024, is to take the 104 best books I've read of these 600, turn them into a condensed, tight, interwoven curriculum, and create a truly structured approach to what is a very difficult territory to navigate. I've read 600 books so that you don't have to. I'm going to try and give you the best 104 in that course, but you don't even need the course because I've already shared over 200 of them for free on YouTube. So please take the opportunity. And if you've already got books on your bookshelf, if you look over to those books, maybe you're even in a room where the books are right there and you haven't read them. Just realize what you're spending your time on rather than spending the time on yourself. And that book at this particular time, if it's the right kind of book, will be genuinely nourishing and genuinely life-saving, not only for you, but for someone else, a friend or a loved one who could do with that information. You've got more intelligence than average, you've got more focus than average, you're watching this video far beyond the attention spans of most people because I haven't done any editing, you're just receiving me, so please take the books, receive the essence of the authors, don't worry about memorization, don't worry about page count, don't worry about how quickly you're going. Focus on absorbing into your heart. If you're a spiritual person and you want to go about bringing in more of a structured, disciplined approach to your studies, this idea of absorbing the information into the heart, as if you're having a conversation with a beautiful friend, you don't remember what they said after 3 hours of you spending time together, but you know that they were truly inspiring. There's something about their face, their laugh, the way that they spoke about what they want to do in life, that touched you and you held it within you. When books become that, or maybe books are already starting to become that for you, reading will take on a whole different texture and you won't have to ever wonder, how do I motivate myself to read? It will happen as automatically as if you found yourself dropped in the ocean and you swim towards the life jacket, and eventually you're on solid ground and you can be the one throwing out those life jackets to other people. You probably shouldn't go out and swim to them and bring them to the shore. Maybe they'll try and take you down at the same time, but you can throw out the life jackets and we can all be healthier. That's the aim of the game. That's the aim of my life so far. If this video has been useful for you, check out the rest of my channel. This is exactly what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it until it's not needed, which realistically is probably the whole of this life and probably a couple thousand more videos. We'll focus on the first 500 though. I'll see you on the next one. It's over here.